Welcome to my makeup brush declutter. I have been collecting these things since I was a little kid, pretty much, and I've never done a brush declutter. It is high time that I do one. If you saw my recent makeup collection video, you'll know I have way too many brushes on my vanity. I need to thin out the herd today, and so that's what I'm going to try to do. And we're going to start with these detail brushes, liner brushes, lash brushes, that kind of thing. So let's start by trying to sort them into similar categories. Okay, here we have just some very small detail brushes for liners. And what I have noticed is this one is a little bit too thick for what I need. So I don't use this one very often. This is a Bdellium Tool 710. So I think I can declutter that one. This one here, the smoky liner brush, I barely ever use for smoky lining. I almost always use it for inner corner highlights. So I think I'm actually going to put it in here because that's what I use a lot of these brushes for as well. And then this one here, this is a Da Vinci Basic Eye Brush. It's the 4522. And this is nice, but also I don't tend to be able to get the line that I'd like to out of this liner. So I think I'm going to give this, I think this style of brush just doesn't suit the way I do my makeup right now. And it never really has. So I have a feeling this one isn't made for me either. Then we have spoolie brushes. Spoolie brushes are super useful because they have spoolies, but they also have these ends. And I don't think I necessarily need to keep all of these because I do also have just some dedicated spoolies laying around without the brush on top. So let's see if I really need any of these. These two are the most similar because they have the same shaped top. And this Morphe MB29 brush and this Sephora random brush, the spoolies, I mean, the difference is of course obvious that this one is bigger, and because I have such small eyes, this one is better for me. But I have to say, I don't like either of these brushes. This one is just too thick. The quality of it's nice, but it's got like too many hairs going horizontally. So this one I don't use much for lining. I've only ever used the spoolie, and I don't think I need to keep it just for the spoolie because I can just use a dedicated spoolie. So we'll give that one away. This one from Morphe has never been even at the top. There's always kind of like the stray hair sticking out that's messing everything up. I can never get the thin line that I want out of this, either when I use it for liner or when I use it for brows, because it's also too thick. So it's too thick, and also the cut just wasn't as precise as I would have wanted it to be. And I've tried to then repair it myself, but even when I've tried to cut it myself, I feel like the bristles just don't stay even. So this one can go as well. This Morphe brush, however, is still pretty useful to me. It is the M625 brow brush. And first of all, it's useful to me because these bristles, if you can see, this is much thinner. So I can get a much finer line to create more natural looking brow hairs. I like it for that. And I like this little spoolie. It looks weird, but it works really well for me, especially because I have very, very fine brow hairs. And I just feel like this is a great little tool. So this one I'm definitely going to keep. Now let's talk lash brushes. My favorite lash brush out of all of these is clearly this one. It's from Sephora. It is the Pro Lash Fan 34 brush. And I like it because of this angle. That makes it really easy to get to the lashes. And I like how even these bristles are. So this is always the first one I reach for. I'm definitely keeping that. When this one is dirty, the second one I reach for is also from Sephora. This is, I think, actually a brow brush. It is the Pro Brow Contour. It is the, what is it, the 36 brush. And I like this one because it also can get in between the lashes. And so I think I would want to keep both of these because one is inevitably always dirty. So it makes sense to keep those. And then the remaining two are here. This one, the bristles are just too long. They have a little bit too much give to them. And that means that I can't use them all that well for my lashes. So I did try using this for like my underneath my brow bone when I'm doing a brow highlight, and it actually works really nicely for that. So I'm going to put this in the maybe pile. I want to see how many brushes I have that I actually use for that purpose before I make a final decision, but that one's on the chopping block. Then we have this one from ESUM Cosmetics. It's the T11. They sent this to me last summer with their new collection. And I have to say, this is the one brush from that collection that I just never became friends with, because it's not made for the way I do makeup. This is made for a makeup artist who puts mascara onto a palette and then applies the mascara onto their client's lashes. I always apply my mascara directly from an applicator, so I don't need a brush like this. And I've never been able to get it to work very well for the way I apply makeup, so I'm definitely going to give this away as well. So these are the only two lash brushes I'll keep. Next, let's talk about these brushes with the odd shapes, because I do like those. And you know what? I'm going to pull these in there as well. We're going to pull all of these together because I end up using these for the same thing. Let's start with this brush from Smith. I think it's the 302. And I like this shape because it works really well for me on my inner corner. So I'm definitely thinking of keeping this one. This one I like because of this shape where it's kind of cut towards the side. But I have to say, because the bristles are kind of fuzzed out, they're kind of layered here on the sides, if I'm using anything that has any sort of glitter in it, it kind of gets everywhere. So this is only really good for matte shadows. But I honestly feel like because of this fact that the bristles are so, they're not frayed, but they're cut in a way that kind of makes them splay out a little bit, I don't end up reaching for this brush. So I think I'll give this one away. This brush, also from Smith, is the 304, and I also really like this for inner corner highlight, but I also really like this for applying shadow on my upper lid, my mobile lid, the very inner corner, because I do have small eyes. It's very hard to get in there and do detail work, and this brush is super for that, as is this one. And because this is the sort of thing that gets dirty pretty often because I use it so much, I think it's worth keeping both of these. But then the question is it worth keeping this one as well? And to be honest, I feel kind of like it is because my eyes are so small, it makes sense to keep these detail shaders. So I think what I'm going to do is put these aside because I know I want to keep this one. So I'll keep this, but I think I'm going to put these aside and I want to see how many brushes I end up keeping. And one of these might be on the chopping block. Next, we have liner brushes, and let's see, I know I could pick a couple of these out because they became my favorites pretty quickly this summer. These are also two brushes that ESUM sent to me this summer. This is the T05 liner brush, and look how skinny that top is. That is beautiful for detail lining work, and I instantly really liked this one. And the second I started using it, I immediately thought, well, maybe I should replace this one. This is the e.l.f. flat eyeliner brush, and I essentially use these for the same thing, but look how much thicker that e.l.f. brush is. So I think I'm going to declutter the e.l.f. brush. Then this is also from ESUM, and this is also a beautiful thin brush, and I like the fact that it's got this rounded top. I can do a lot of detail work with that, so I'm definitely going to keep that one. This is from the Sephora Pro collection. It is the Tight Liner 32, and I also love this for its very, very small shape and the square top. Now we're getting to brushes where I'm wondering, because I'm keeping 3 already, I want to make sure I'm not keeping too many. These brushes, I have to say, are all really nice, but this one is also relatively thick in comparison to the other brushes that I like. So I think this Zoeva smudger brush, it's the 226, is also going to go. But I do want to keep the Zoeva 322 brow line because it's thinner here. And I also like this slant. It's really good for the brows, but it's also really nice for eyeliner. This one, also really thin and nice. And because of the fact that eyeliner goes so close to the eye, I do like to wash these brushes frequently and use a fresh one whenever possible. So I do think it's maybe worth keeping that one as well. And then we have this winged liner brush, the 317 from Zoeva. And this one is also a little bit thick, but it's not as thick as some of the other ones. I do use this fairly often, but I'm wondering if these will actually cover my bases. You know what? I think the shape of this is actually really nice, and it's the only one that I have in this shape now. And I like the fact that it's cut like this for some of the detail work that I use. So I think we're keeping a lot of liner brushes. But as I said, I think that makes sense for the way I like to maintain them. And these are all kind of very small pencil brushes, detail brushes, and I know I want to keep the ones from Sonia G because I reach for them constantly. So I will keep the Sonia G detail brush. This is also, I think, from the Fusion series, which means it's really great to use with creams and liquids. And so I've been really enjoying this. It's definitely staying. And this soft definer brush is like the perfect mix of everything. It's soft enough, it's small enough, it's stiff enough. It has the perfect shape for my small eyes, and I use this all the time. I'm constantly washing this brush because it's in rotation so often. Definitely a sign I need to keep that. Then we have these brushes, which I also use pretty often. Okay, this one here, this is a Rephr brush. It's the 23. Look how tiny that is. That's definitely worth keeping for my small eye. This is the sort of thing I love to use to make sure that corner work is done really well, either inner or outer corner, that the shadow or that the liner really comes right to the lash line. This is perfect for that. So I'm definitely going to keep the Rephr 23. All right, this one here from BK Beauty, the 204, it is a nice smudger brush, but it is very thick. And because my eyes are so small, I feel like it's a little bit too thick for me. So I think we'll declutter that one. These three brushes are also very similar. This one here from IT Cosmetics is quite nice, but it's very stiff at the top. And every once in a while, if I'm not careful, I feel like I'm poking myself in the eye when I use it. And that doesn't happen with these two, maybe because they're not quite as pointy and they're not quite as stiff. So I think I will declutter this one. And now it's down to the Zoeva 223, which is called the Petite Eye Blender, and the BK Beauty 207. And I do really like both of these for the inner corner. Ooh, this is going to get tricky. Okay, this is a small detail brush. This is the S31 from ESUM. Also often used for the inner corner, but it is, I don't know, kind of starting to splay out here. What I need to do is wash this the next time and use a brush guard over it as it dries to see if I can get that shape back. Because I do know that when these little doohickeys here start to come about and the little hairs start to stick out, that it does make it kind of hard to do detail work sometimes. So maybe I'll consider giving that one away. We have the Smoky Liner brush from Zoeva. This one I feel like is either too big or too small for what I'm trying to do. Every time I reach for it, it's not quite right. It is nice for the inner corner because look how tiny that is, but I have other brushes that I kept that can get in there. So I think I'm going to give this one away. This one I often use for the outer corner, but it's a really good inner corner brush too. Okay, so I think I might, oh my gosh, am I actually going to give away the S31? I don't think I can. I think I'm going to keep these four. These last two brushes from this category are from Wet n Wild, and this is their small concealer brush. My favorite brush for under eye corrector and concealer is by far actually a lip brush made by ESUM, and I think it's the W19. And these are what I use whenever that one is dirty. And because this is the sort of thing I use almost every day, it makes sense to have a lot of them just so that I can get around to washing them. So I think I will keep both of these as well. These are all of my medium-sized brushes, and I'm going to pull out the ones that I use all the time right away because why even waste time considering what I'm going to do with them? Okay, these here are brushes that I use all the time. They are the W23 brush and the W21 brush, all from ESUM Cosmetics. These I'm going to keep just because they're super useful to me. I use these all over the mobile lid all the time, so definite keepers. A couple of liner brushes snuck in here. Oh, another brow line brush from Zoeva. Because I kept one of these, I'm going to give this one away. I don't need two, I don't think. And this one is an interesting one because of the way it's cut. It's got like little holes in it, but I have found that this does not make it look like I'm actually putting brow hairs on because each of the little sections that's there is too thick. So I'm going to give this one away as well. This is a KVD brow brush, the 75. This Builder brush from Sonia G is also one that I use all the time, so that's definitely a keeper. This Lorac brush is a double-sided brush, which I normally don't like, but one of you had mentioned that you often store your double-ended brushes just vertically like all your other brushes, and it never was a problem. So I started storing it like that, but because this brush is so much shorter than the other ones, it gets lost in the mix. So I think I'm just going to give this away because I'm still not using it because I never see it. These brushes, honestly, I haven't quite figured out yet. It's the W36 and W35 brush from ESUM, and they've got a whole lot of flick to them. So I've never quite gotten used to how to use them, but I'm still intrigued by this brush shape. So if you have an idea of how to best use them, for now, I've just been using them like in my crease, but I'm just wondering if there's another way to use them. I'm not quite ready to part with them yet, just because they are two very original shape brushes in my collection here, but I'm not sure they're going to stay forever. Maybe I'll put them on the chopping block and decide at the end. When it comes to these brushes from ESUM, I have two of the S33 brushes and one of the G27 brushes. And I think these are the ones I reach for more often. So I think I might be willing to part with the G27. So I'll put that in the declutter pile. And both of these get so much use that they're definitely going to stay with me. All right, then I tried putting some of the similar brushes together. So let's take a look at these. All right, I have a couple from Rephr, and let's take a look at those. This Rephr 21 brush is really good for applying cream shadows, as is this one from Angie Hot and Flashy. This is actually supposed to be a concealer brush, I think, but I use it for cream and liquid shadows just because it's a little bit too big for my under eye, but if I'm putting it on the mobile lid, it usually works pretty well. So I think I'll keep these two because they are so good for the cream shadows. Then here I have a whole bunch of flat brushes. And let's see, when I look at how thick they are, I tend to like the thinner ones better. So I tend to gravitate towards these. And when I want a thicker brush, I almost always choose the Sonia G. So I think I'm going to part with the Rephr 02 brush, but I'm going to keep the Rephr 28 brush as well as the Zoeva 234 and the Sonia G Builder brush. This shape of brush is one of the most useful to me. This shape and this shape here, I use them by far the most. And because of that, I'm thinking that maybe I'll just keep all of them because they all are constantly being washed and constantly being dirtied and washed. They're always in the cycle somewhere. So I feel like they're all worth keeping right now, and that's what I'll do. But I do have a lot of these types of brush. These two from Rephr here, though, the 13 and the 14, these are really small compared to a lot of the brushes, and because of that, they're really great for outer corner work on my tiny eyes. So those are definitely sticking around. This Angie Hot and Flashy A501 brush, it's just not something I reach for all that often, so I think I can give it away. These brushes, however, I'm constantly reaching for crease work, to blend out the crease, to apply crease things. And this is also the sort of thing where it's often very useful to reach for a clean brush to kind of fade out the edges of things. And so because this shape is something I reach for all the time for that, they're also staying. But do I need these? Let's see. We've got the BK Beauty 202 brush. This is one that, I'll use to blend out the outside, but I kept so many already from Rephr and Zoeva. I don't think I necessarily need these here. Although this one is a nice small size. So maybe I'll keep this Angie Hot and Flashy A502 brush for that. And this Angie Hot and Flashy A504 brush, this one is small enough that it makes sense to keep for me. So these two will go. And then we have these pencil brushes, which also come in really handy for detail work in the outer corner, especially for my small eyes. The ones that I reach for the most are this Zoeva, the 231 Luxe brush, and this one here, also from Zoeva, the 230 Luxe pencil. These tend to be my favorites, so I will definitely keep those. This BK Beauty 203 brush, I mean, BK Beauty makes some really great brushes, but I tend to be a much bigger fan of their face brushes. So I don't reach for this one so often. I think I'll just put this one in the declutter pile. But we also have, let's see, these two from Rephr. And these are really nice smudger brushes. I like the point on this one, and I like the fact that I can smudge out a smoky eye with this. So I think I'll keep these as well. And the last of my eye brushes are here, but there's also several other brushes in here that are kind of mixed in. So we're kind of transitioning to face brushes now. Any one of them from Sonia G, I have really liked. So the Sonia Gs are just going to stay with me. I don't even have to debate that. Every single one of these brushes I have used not only with powder products, but also with creams and liquids to great success. So these are all staying with me. They're all very useful shapes. And because they work so well with creams and powders and liquids, they're just something I'm going to reach for all the time. This one from Sigma, however, the small tapered blending brush, which is the E45, this one, I feel like it doesn't really push product around very well. The bristles just, I don't know, the way I do makeup, this has never worked for me. So I'm going to pass this one on. This is another one of those double-ended brushes that I finally just decided to store with my normal brushes. And I feel like this section of the brush is already kind of not liking it, but this is never the side of the brush that I used anyway. I always reached for this, especially when I was traveling. Look how convenient that is. This is the IT Cosmetics Superhero 4-in-1 Eye Transforming Super Shadow and Liner Brush. I think this might be worth keeping just for this. This here is the concealer and buffer brush, and I often am found using this, so I'm definitely going to keep this one as well. Here we have two other concealer brushes, and they're very similar. This is the very popular Angie Hot and Flashy A506 brush. So many people love this brush, and I don't think it's a bad brush, but first of all, look how much bigger it is than my other concealer brush here from Sephora. This one is just huge for my face. And plus, also, these bristles kind of, I find them very pokey. They poke me in the skin. It's not very comfortable to use, whereas this one is a lot softer. So I think I'm actually going to part with this Angie Hot and Flashy A506 brush, not because it's a bad brush, it's just bad for me. And instead, I will keep this brush of the same shape from Sephora. It's just the concealer brush from their normal Not Pro collection. The question is, do I need these when I've also kept this? I do like the smaller size of the Angie Hot and Flashy A505 brush. So I think what I'll do is see how thick this one is. This is the ESUM T43 brush. I think I'm just going to keep the two smaller ones. This one is just a little bit too big for my face. So we'll say goodbye to the T43. And instead we'll just keep my 233 from Zoeva and the BK Beauty Angie Hot and Flashy one. This is the KVD Shade and Light brush, and I think I'm going to keep this one. It's quite convenient for travel, and since I started storing it vertically, it doesn't seem to have suffered at all. So I think this one is worth keeping as well. This one here, the KVD 40 brush, this is one of my favorite contouring brushes, so I'm definitely going to keep this one. And now we're down to 3 ESUM brushes. The, let's see, T38, the T37, and the V27. I find that I don't reach for the V27 all that often, so I'm going to pass that along. But I do tend to reach for these for concealer or any sort of cream or liquid product that I'm using for a foundation or concealer or corrector. So these two are definitely worth keeping, especially look at the small size of this one. This is great for me for concealer. And I've actually used this one all over my face. Even though it might be a little bit small for that, it applies so well that it's worth taking the extra time. So let's revisit the ones I said I was going to think about. Okay, this Zoeva 137 Petite Fan Brush, I don't think I need, so I can pass that along. These two, now that my brush collection is thinned out quite a bit, I want to see if I get more use out of these and if I can befriend myself with their shapes. So I'm going to keep those. And these are just an unbelievably useful size. Look at how small those are. Those are great for so many different things. So I'm definitely going to keep all 3 of these. I think it's worth it. This is a little mug of the shorter brushes that I own because they get lost if I store them with everything else. So let's take a look at what's in here. We've got some applicators in here as well. All right, first, what is this? Anastasia Brow Wiz. This is so tiny. I've obviously never used it because I lost track of it, so this is going. This is a great lip brush. I like it because you get the length when you put it together that way, but it does really well with travel because I can close it up like that. So this brush is definitely staying around. It is the Makeup Forever 304 straight lip brush. This little plastic doohickey is something that I would normally use to get product out of things, but because I kept the spatulas, I think I'm just gonna get rid of this. This here is a tool that I use to clean my false lashes after I've used them, so that's worth keeping around. These little applicators, these are from the YSL palettes, it looks like, and I've obviously never used them, so I don't think they're worth keeping. I think I'll toss these. All of these brushes have something in common, namely they are all much shorter than the normal brushes that I use. And because of that, I don't store them together because they would get lost with all of my other brushes. These are all great brushes that I've used a lot over the years. They have a great shape. They still have a lot of life to them. And because of that, I think it's better if I give these away because they're not getting used here. These need to be cleaned, but these are silicone spoolies, and I really, really enjoy having these. It makes a lot of sense for me to keep them because I can do all sorts of things. I can apply mascara with them, I can smooth out mascara with them, I can use them for brow products. They've got all these interesting shapes, and I have found uses for all of them, so all 4 of these are staying. These 2 pens are just useful to have on my vanity. This is the pen that I use when I'm taking notes on the makeup I apply, so I can put it in my description box of all my videos. And this, in case I ever need to mark something, just comes in really handy. And these brushes are also great for detail work. And these are shorter than my normal brushes, but they're long enough that I think they can still compete with some of my normal sized brushes. So I think I'm just going to put these 2 with my normal brushes now, especially now that I've thinned out the herd and there's less of them. I think I'll be able to see them and find them. These here are just some disposable spoolies that I really like to reuse. So I will wash these and then reuse them again. So I think I'll keep these. This is a brush guard, and it is really nice because it's so tiny. So I can use this after I wash my brushes to really shape my tiniest brushes. That's very useful. I'll keep that. Then I have this ESUM lip brush. And I have to say that out of all of my lip brushes, I tend to like this shape better. This is from MAC. This is their 316 brush. It's very similar to the Makeup Forever one that I kept, but it's a little bit thinner. And I really like both of these shapes. But this square shape, I've never really befriended so much, especially because of how thick this is. And I don't know if you can tell that some of these hairs kind of stick out, but I've never been able to get exactly the application I want to with this ESUM T20. So I think I will wash this one and give this one away. And I will keep the 304 from Makeup Forever and the 316 from MAC. This here is just a brow razor, but it definitely comes in handy, so I'll keep that. Oh, this is also a short brush that rolled away. Oh, this one is so nice. I love using this kind of shape for concealer, but it is so tiny that I don't use it. I'm going to send it to a new home. And these are the last 2 things we have. The brow primer from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and this is just convenient to keep in that mug, so I'll just put it back there. This is the only eyelash curler that will work for my eye shape. I have very small, deep-set eyes, and the shape of my eyes is such that any of the longer eyelash curlers, they either don't get half of my lashes or they really pinch my skin at the inner and outer corners of my eye just because of the way my eyes are shaped. And so this one is tiny enough that I can get in and just curl the parts of my lash that I want to get to. And if I want to do the whole lash, then I will go and use it a couple of times. But this is the one and only eyelash curler that will work for me. It's by Shu Uemura, and I am so glad I found it, so I am never giving this up. And this end result feels a lot easier to use for me. There's enough space in here where I can shift everything around and easily find everything I want. So I'm much happier with this. Here are a bunch of tools that normally live in this glass, and I'm going to see how many of these I can get rid of. Okay, this spoolie is something I use all the time, and since I got rid of most of my other spoolies, I'm going to keep this. But this, I don't think I'm going to keep. In principle, I like the thing. I really like a silicone applicator for some eyeshadows, but the shape of this is too large and too thick for my eye. I know it's supposed to like emulate a finger, but I just find that it doesn't apply things the way I need them to, so this will go. This thing is totally extra. It is a lip exfoliator from Bliss. You could use your finger in a sugar scrub, you could use a toothbrush in a finger scrub, or you can use this thing. I think it's funny because it tickles, and if I'm ever in a bad mood and I try to use this on my lips, I can't help but smile. So I'm going to keep this. Here I have 3 spatulas, and these are just really useful. I have switched over. I use all of my cream products by scraping them out of their component and then putting them onto a palette and then mixing them with my brushes. I find I get a more even result that way, and I just really like it. So it is definitely worth keeping this one. This is the one I like the most. It's the lightest weight, and it has like just enough flex to it that I feel like I can really feel how much product I'm getting out. So I'm definitely going to keep this one. This one, I think I'm going to keep on my desk instead of on my vanity, because every once in a while when I'm filming something, I need to get something out of a palette or scrape something out, and I think this would be useful to keep there. And this one I think is going to live in my travel bag. This is a really random tool. It's just magnetized, and if I ever need to get magnetized pans out of things, I can use this to get them easily out. So that's definitely worth keeping. Okay, this is a Real Techniques under eye reviver, and it's just this like cool metal ball that you can use to rub in under eye serums. It came in a package of different things. One of my favorite brushes that I use to apply my primers came in that thing, but I don't ever use this. So I think I'm going to wash this and then give that away. These tools here I bought for a very specific purpose. I was trying to do some detailed looks, and I thought that these like rubber tips might actually be really nice to use with my cosmetics. Turns out they're a complete fail. They might be great for the arts if you're doing painting and things, but I think I'm going to give these away because they don't work for what I was going to try to use them for. This also came in that Real Techniques package, and I can use it to scrape out product. For example, if my concealer is almost empty, I can use this to kind of get the last bits of it out. So this is worth keeping. This from Barbara Hoffman is just really hard to clean. I actually like it for inner corner stuff, but because I can never seem to get it really clean, I think I'm just going to throw it out because I don't feel comfortable giving it to anybody, and I don't feel comfortable using it because I can never clean it. A nail file, always useful. This here is a skincare device that was decluttered to me, and I haven't tried it yet because I'm trying to be very scientific now whenever I'm testing skincare or skincare devices. And because I'm currently using a different routine right now, I don't want to add this yet. But this is called the Even Skin Venus, and it's supposed to be an eyelid anti-aging device. So I definitely want to try this out at some point, so it's worth keeping for that purpose. This Da Vinci Classic Face Brush, the 968, is also actually really good for under eye correcting if I need to. And since that's something I do all the time, I think I'm going to put this with my other under eye corrector brushes that I like so much. And now I'm left with these various silicone applicators. I really like these things. This one is by far my favorite because look how small it is, but also it's got some nice give to it. So I feel like it's really easy for me to get just the right amount of application on there. So this by far is my favorite. My second favorite is this one. It doesn't have as much give to it, so I'm not a fan of it that way, but it's also so small that I can get a lot of really good use out of it. These two, I'm a little bit less likely to use just because they're larger. This one I like because it has more give to it than the one from Essence. I think this is from NYX here, and this one is from Essence. But the fact is, when these are dirty, all of them are dirty right now, as you can see, because I've used all of them. So what happens is, because I don't get around to washing them often enough and I'm using one right after the other, I do think it's worth keeping all 4. Out of all of that stuff in the beginning, this is what I'm keeping now. So I feel like I did a pretty good job. Last but not least, I have the behemoth that is my face brush container. And so I am going to empty this out so we can take a closer look at everything in here. These are all the brushes that I tend to use with powders, so we'll go through these first. Let me sort them out maybe a little bit better. Let's take a look at my largest powder brushes first. Now, first of all, I have a tiny face, so these large brushes, for the most part, are too big for me. This is the Rephr 22, and I enjoy the shape of this brush, but it's been shedding a lot lately, and on top of that, it's just too big for my tiny face, so I'm going to give this one away. This brush from Real Techniques, it is the Instapop face brush. This is also a pretty darn big brush for me, and I'm not crazy about the shape of this because it's so thick, so it ends up taking up a lot of space in the container itself, but also this part down here is kind of like sticky rubberized material that I'm not crazy about. And because this brush isn't ideal for me, I'm just not willing to put up with the inconveniences of the shape and the way this feels. So this one will go too. The one large powder brush that I'm going to keep is this one. It is from Eco Tools, and it is the sheer powder brush. It's extremely light and fluffy, very easy to use when I want a very light dusting of powder, not a whole lot of coverage, because it's not densely packed. So this one is definitely worth keeping. Then we have my small brushes. This is the category I think I want to keep the most in, just because I do have such a small face. It's really useful to me. This is one of my favorite brushes of all time for my face. It's the Sonia G Detail Pro. I use this for under eye powder. It's light and fluffy enough that it doesn't give me a huge, like, thick layer of powder, but it's small enough to get into my under eye area. So this is definitely staying. This Sephora brush I use for the same purpose, but honestly, I think I'm going to put this with my eyeshadow brushes because I think it's going to get more use there, and this is exactly the shape that I like for blending out the crease, and I think, honestly, I'd like it better there. Whenever that Sonia G powder brush is dirty, this is the one I use. It's the Real Techniques setting brush, and I like to use this under my eyes as well, so this definitely makes sense to keep. This brush I use all the time for pretty much everything. Contour, blush, bronzer, powder, and because it's so versatile, I really like the shape. I really like I like the density of it. I like the way it moves. I feel like it applies everything well. This is the detail brush from Sonia G. I think it was the Lotus collection. And this brush was also from that collection. It's the cheek brush, and this is beautiful for blush. So definitely a keeper. These two I tend to use most of the time for powder as well. This is the Zoeva 114 Luxe Face Focus, and this is the BK Beauty 113. I actually think that this is intended to be used for foundation, so I need to try it out for that at some point, but I really like using it for powder, so that's where it's going to live. And like I said, because this size brush is the best for my face, the fact that I'm keeping all of them doesn't really bother me. The question is, what do I want to do with my medium-sized brushes? Well, I don't have all of that many buffing brushes like this one. This is the Heavenly Luxe number 6 brush. It's the flat top buffing foundation brush from IT Cosmetics. The brush itself I really like. What I hate is this like sticky material, but the only problem is because this is the only brush that I have like this, I want to keep it for now. Eventually I would like to replace it. And I did just get this beauty. I have been waiting, I think, 4 years at this point for this to come back into stock. It's the Sonia G Smooth Buffer Brush. I like it because look how much smaller it is. I think that's going to be much better for my small face. But my plan is actually to use this with a lot of color cosmetics. And this brush is what I use with, for example, my blurring powder that I use as a primer for my Sicily powder. So this kind of has like a set usage already, and I'm going to keep it for that. But eventually I'd like to replace it because I just can't stand this part. And this one I haven't tried yet. It's still a virgin brush, and I can't wait to play with it because this is exactly the size and shape that I needed. These two brushes are very similar. This is the Rephr 04, and this is a vintage MAC brush. I think it's the 168 maybe. This is when they were still making real hair brushes, and I really like both of these. This is the sort of brush I'll use for contour or for blush. I've also used it for bronzer, and so I think it's worth keeping both of these because at least one of them is dirty at all times. This Sonia G base brush, I think, is also from her Lotus collection. This is amazing for those products that are a little bit harder to get out of the pan because they're baked gelée. And so this is definitely worth keeping because this gets a ton of use for me, especially with my Charlotte Tilbury Nudegasm palette, I think it's called. This is my favorite brush to use with that. This one is also actually really great for those sorts of formulas where it's a little bit harder to get at product. So this is definitely also going to stay with me. One of my favorite highlighter brushes, this is actually one of the first makeup brushes I ever bought for myself. It was the Inglot 4SS brush, and this also comes in really handy for me. This is the soft buffer brush from Sonia G, and this is also a perfect size for me. I mean, look how small it is compared to some of the other brushes here. So this is also a brush that I use a lot for color cosmetics, and considering the fact that I mix and match a lot of my color cosmetics, I blend a lot of things together, and sometimes I want to use a clean brush, I go through a lot of this type of brush. So I think, for example, keeping all three of these actually makes a whole lot of sense for me the way I do makeup. This Rephr 24 brush is actually a much better size for me than that original 24 brush that I decided to declutter. But the problem I have here, I don't know if you can see, a hair just fell out while I was literally just sitting here talking to you. There's another one. These brushes are just shedding all the time, and I take really good care of my brushes. Like, I mean, some of these brushes are literally 30 years old, and I don't think you'd ever know because I try to take such good care of them. So the fact that these are shedding so badly really doesn't speak for for the quality, I guess. So I am going to pass this one on as well because every time I use it lately, I've been getting a lot of hair on my face. This brush comes in really handy when I have a formula that's not very pigmented and I want to improve the coverage. So part of me wants to keep it for that, but I do get really annoyed by the shape of the handle and also by this stickiness. And considering the fact that I'm keeping so many beautiful brushes that work really well, I think I'm going to pass this one on as well. Which leaves this Heavenly Luxe brush, the French Boutique blush brush, the number 4. This was a gift from my sister-in-law, and holy wowzers, does it work well. So I'm going to keep this. And this is really nice for very pigmented blushes because look how fluffy that is. It's just super light and airy. And so if I ever am worried about getting too much pigment, a brush like this makes a huge difference. And these are all of the brushes that I use for creams. Well, except for maybe this one. This was decluttered to me. It is the angled buffing foundation brush, and I haven't ever actually used it for foundation. I'm wondering if it would work really well for that. I've actually used it every single time my other buffing brush is out of commission because it's dirty. This is the one that I've used instead. But because the shape is diagonal here and these brushes have so much more give, I feel like it doesn't give me the ideal application because normally I would want something completely even like this one. So the way that I use it, I'm wondering if I should try it for foundation, but to be honest, I'm not sure that I'd really like it. I think I can tell you right now that I wouldn't even like it for its intended purpose, just because this side has so much more stiffness than this side that I feel like it would just make things pretty uneven. So unless someone in the comments can convince me that this is the most amazing brush ever, I think I'm going to clean it up and give it away. This brush here from IT Cosmetics also has that horrible stickiness here, although it's kind of gone away. I've had to repair this brush so many times. I don't know if you can see, but this part keeps coming detached. And so I have glued it back on so many times because I like this brush so much. But as you can see, like some of it's also starting to shed here as well. There's some hairs kind of sticking out at the top. I mean, I've had it for years at this point and it's gotten so much use that I'm wondering if maybe it might be time to let it go. I just recently started storing it with all the rest of my brushes and it has gotten use since then. So, I mean, it's a really good quality brush, but I think I might have some better ones now that I can use more often that are in a little bit better shape. So I think it might be finally time to move this one out. This is the contouring brush from e.l.f. And although it has a really nice shape, I always find that I either want to use this one or this one that we took a look at earlier with my eyeshadow brushes. Both of these are from KVD. And when I'm doing contouring, these are the two brushes that I normally prefer the most. And so I think I'm just going to stick with those And I think I'm going to give this one away. Even though I like the shape of this, it's really good for cutting a jawline. But I do find that it's a little bit thin, or the shape isn't ideal for doing underneath my cheekbones. And it's too wide to use on my nose. And so I think I'm just going to pass this one along. This is still new to me. I originally purchased this to be a bronzer brush, like a powder bronzer brush. But it turns out that it's a little bit too densely packed for me to get the coverage that I want for a powder bronzer with this. But I have found that it's really nice for my cream products. This is the ESUM P55 brush. Because it's so new to me and I'm still working with it, and so far it's been working really well, I'm definitely going to keep this one. Another one that is a definite keeper is the BK Beauty 109. Here is the BK Beauty 109, and it is hands down my favorite from the brand. In fact, if I owned like 3 or 4 of these, it wouldn't be too much because that's how often I use it. These two are my only stippling brushes, and I have to say I really like a good stippling brush. This one I still use all the time, the Petite stippling brush. It's also petite, which is great for my face. But this MAC, I think it's the 187 stippling brush, is actually a great brush. The only problem is mine is getting up there in years, and I've noticed it's starting to shed. And so I think it might actually be time to give this one away, unfortunately. As much as I have loved this brush in the past, lately every time I've used it, it's left hair all over my face. So I think it might be time to say goodbye to this one. But the petite size will stick around. And if I end up missing the large one, then I will try to replace it with something similar to what I just decluttered. This Bobbi Brown full coverage face brush, I'm assuming is meant for foundation, but I use this for any other cream product other than foundation. I'm sure it would probably work great for foundation too, but I use this for blush, for bronzer. I mean, I just love using this with cream products. It is the softest little brush, and so this definitely makes sense to keep. This MAC 190 brush is actually meant for foundation, but I use this as a priming brush. These two together, whenever this one is dirty, I use this one instead. And I have also used this as a foundation brush and really liked it that way as well. But these are worth keeping because I use them every time I apply my makeup, and inevitably one of them at least is always dirty. This face shape brush from Zoeva is amazing. It's got the perfect density for cream products. I'm definitely not considering giving this one away. This Angie Hot and Flashy A507 brush I think is supposed to be maybe for powder blush, but I use this for cream blush, and it's beautiful, especially if I want to diffuse a more pigmented color. This is great for that. Now, I had bought this once when I was traveling, and I had forgotten to bring this one with me, and this is the Sephora blush brush. It's just from their normal collection. And I have to say, I really do like this. And I like it because it's smaller than this one, but I'm not sure that I need both of them. Especially because I have the Bobbi Brown brush that I like so much and the BK Beauty one that I like so much. I think it might be time to part with the Sephora brush. This is a Louis Young brush, and I actually bought this on recommendation from Wayne Goss. And I use it as a foundation brush sometimes. And it's funny because I will go through like months and months and months where I have absolutely no desire to use this brush whatsoever. And then I will go through a phase where all I want to do is use this brush every time I apply foundation. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I feel like it works really well for me. And then other times it's a little bit difficult. So I'm thinking, because this is so large and because it's not a consistently used brush, I think I'm going to give this away, especially because it's such nice quality still. It's beautiful. So I think I can give this to somebody. This BK Beauty 101 brush, I'm so not sure about because every time I use it, I'm really happy with the results that I get, but it's really, really big. And I have a brush that's very similar. This Sonia G jumbo base brush is very similar, but I just feel like, I don't know, when this one is dirty, this is the one that I reach for. So I feel kind of like it's worth keeping both, but I'm keeping a lot of brushes. So I feel like maybe I need to be a little bit more cutthroat. This is going on the chopping block, but this one is definitely a keeper. as are these two brushes. These are gorgeous for concealer, for cream products, for foundation. This is the Sonia G Mini Base, and this is the Sonia G Classic Base. Both of these can be used with creams or powders. I use them with creams and liquids all the time, and they're gorgeous. This is the ESUM V48 brush, and a lot of times nowadays when I want to use a paddle-shaped brush to apply foundation, this is actually the one I use. But I've also been known to use this for powder. It's just been a very flexible brush for me. This is also one that was sent to me last summer with their new release, and because I really like the way the foundation looks when I use this, I think this is worth keeping. This is a Patrick Ta brush. I'm not sure what it's called, the For Contour one. It's a really nice brush. It applies product really well, but it's big. The body of it's also very big and thick, which makes it kind of difficult to store. And because of the kind of lopsided shape of this, I find that sometimes it's a little difficult to use. It is great for contour because this side gives you a little bit more coverage, and this side, because it's more flexible, gives a little less coverage. It is nice that way, but because it's so big, I don't find that I can use it all that well. So I think this might be better suited to someone else's face. And I've decided I want to give myself some more time with this BK Beauty 101 brush. So I am going to do that. I also found these brushes hiding in my bathroom. This is a Bobbi Brown full coverage touch-up brush that I really like using for concealer. So that's definitely staying. This touch-up brush, also by Bobbi Brown, is one of my favorite nose contouring brushes, so it's also staying. This ESUM W19 brush is my absolute favorite for under-eye correctors, so that's definitely staying. And this one is the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe brush number 23, the dual-ended buff and blend. And this one, I'm keeping because I want to see how much use I get out of it now that my collection has thinned out. And the next time I do a declutter, this one might be on the chopping block. So if you'd like to see what happens with this, make sure you're subscribed to find out. These are all the brushes and tools that are leaving. While I was doing the declutter, I didn't feel like I was being very cutthroat, but now that I'm looking at this, I do feel like I did a pretty decent job. And this is just the first layer of declutter. I can always go through onion style and do another layer of declutter at a later time. And I do think I'll see a difference in my vanity, which will really improve the quality of time that I spend while I'm getting ready. So even though it might not be in its ideal state yet, I do think it's well on its way. What's going to happen now is all of these brushes and tools are going to go into what I call the time will tell box. That means that I can just kind of put them aside and I'll leave that box for maybe, 2 or 3 months. And if I don't find myself reaching into that box to get a specific brush, then I will simply get rid of everything in the box. But that gives me a little bit of a chance to see if I do happen to miss something in here. For example, this brush here that I do tend to reach for sometimes. If I don't think of it, if it's out of sight, out of mind, and I never want to use it, then that's a good sign that I can get rid of it. But if I do find myself missing it, I can still reach into the box and see if it might be worth keeping after all. Thanks for hanging out. If you like videos about beauty and style, then I've got another one for you right here. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. But even if you don't, I hope you have a great week, and we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.